What's up guys, Jason from Car Stuff Nerd Stuff. I thought I'd do a little video on some nerdy stuff. So this is my sim racing rig. Started building this last summer when the whole COVID thing happened. Was really bored, couldn't really go anywhere obviously, except to work. But you know, all the normal events were closed. I've never really been a big car track guy, but there were a couple that I would go to every year. Not drive, usually spectate. It's kind of expensive to get into, like really racing on a track. Typically you need like a separate set of, you know, wheels and tires. And if you break things on an expensive car, obviously that's really expensive to fix. And I've just always kind of wanted one of these. So I started building it last summer. It was kind of hard to find all the parts. So anyone who was trying to buy this kind of stuff last summer knows that there were part shortages for the steering wheels and the bases and the pedals and, you know, everything basically. So I kind of bought parts as I could find them. Didn't really get what I wanted to begin with. Some of the stuff I overpaid for a little bit because I bought it used on eBay. Some of the, like the wheelbase, for example, I'll be showing you in a second, that is like totally overkill and I wouldn't have bought that one, but because it was the most expensive one Fanatec makes, it was the only one in stock for months. So I ended up with that one, and I don't really regret it now because I like it and it's awesome. But still, it was, you know, a little bit ridiculous in terms of price. So I guess we'll start with the cockpit. So I watched a bunch of videos. People basically said, if you're gonna run, you know, real deal pedals and a big boy steering wheel, you need a solid cockpit. So I'm sure there are more solid cockpits than this one. I'm not trying to claim that our seat makes the best cockpits in the world. In fact, this cockpit here, as well as the ones that look like it, that I think there's an NS, this is the RS. Those are kind of being discontinued in favor of their new cockpits, which are built more out of, you know, square tube stuff versus this round mandrel bent stuff. I'm sure the square tube stuff is probably more rigid. It doesn't really look as nice in my opinion, and it's probably way easier to make. So their profits are probably way higher. So this cockpit is the R1 or RS1 Assetto Corsa edition. I knew that Assetto would probably be the game that I played the most, and I really like the fact that this chair has the logo in it. It's a pretty narrow racing bucket. I'm kind of on the chunky side, so I fit in there, but it's tight, which is kind of cool because it kind of gives it that race car feel. But I do like the fact that it's black and red, and the cockpit itself has some black and red accents, so you can see down there where the pedals are. The plate behind the pedals is red, and then you've got some red right here for the shifter mount and everything. So kind of a neat little cockpit, and it's definitely sturdy enough to withstand the gear that I have. That was the first thing. The second thing that's important, obviously, is this monitor stand. I'm running 50/50s, so originally I was just running one of them, and I'll come over here. This is the stand that I bought off of Amazon. So it's basically a floor standing stand. There's this box in the way, but H pattern on the bottom, and then a pole comes up. And then there was essentially just a plate here that a TV mounted to. And I gave one of my friends the TV, so he took the plate too, because it was actually a wall mount plate. But you can see two screws here where the wall mount plate would mount. And then I had a TV hanging on that. So that worked for a while. And then I decided that I was sick of playing with a single monitor and not being able to see the cars beside me and see my, you know, whole rear view mirror and my side view mirrors. So I switched to a 50/50 display. So this monitor stand is also from R-Seat. It is the G1 RS Stand T3XL. So this supports TV mounts. It's actually designed for TVs and not monitors. I went the TV route because TVs are big and cheap. But as you can see, mounts to the VESA mounts on the TVs, and then you can, you know, slide them and angle them and all kinds of different things. So huge arguments online about how angled these things should be. There was one limitation that I ran into with this TV stand. So it's meant for up to 50-inch displays, and when they say that, they really mean up to 50, because these are angled as much as I can angle them. So probably would have put another 10 degrees on them, but they physically can't rotate in anymore. So There's this pivot point here with 2 bolts. They actually shorted me one, so I had to go to the hardware store for that one. But these are rotated in as far as they can possibly rotate. So not a big deal since I sit so close to them. When you're sitting here in this seat, your peripheral vision is full of monitor. So when the car, car's next to you going to pass you, you can see that. Where your rear view mirrors are essentially is where they are in real life. And it looks that way, so that's kind of important to me. It kind of annoys some people that there are bezels. That's just kind of something that you have to deal with. The bezels don't bother me that much, honestly. When you're racing, they kind of go away. So my brain doesn't even pay attention to the fact that they're there anymore. So not a big deal. But like I said, these are TVs. They were way cheaper than monitors would have been. I know some people do the curved monitor thing, and you can, pay $1,000 north for those. So these are just big, dumb 4K TVs. So they're actually, here's the model number over here. I haven't thrown the boxes away yet. But they're 50 UN70s. And I think they were either $299 or $399 a piece. So that moves us on to the actual driving gear. So for a wheelbase, I went with a Fanatec DD2. And like I said, I would not have gone with this wheelbase had everything else been in stock. I was originally looking at the CS 2.5, which now with their new direct drive wheelbase that's coming out, I kind of would have been mad if I would have, spent almost $500 on that. And the DD1 wasn't in stock, so I ended up with this one. So this does have enough torque in it to hurt you. There's all kinds of warnings that come with it. There's actually an emergency shutoff button that if you hit this, it shuts power off to everything. So when this wheel starts going crazy, they tell you when you get in a crash, just like in a real car, if you think you're going to go off, take your thumbs out of the wheel. Make sure that you don't have a thumb in, because when this thing spins, you can really hurt yourself, especially with this is actually metal. This is a steel wheel. So there's actual real risk of catching your thumb, and plenty of videos online of guys that really injure themselves with these. So I've got this turned down to about 60%, and that seems to be a good mix of, light enough steering to where you're not physically manhandling the wheel, but also good enough force feedback to where it feels cool, because you can feel rumble strips, you can feel when the back of the car kicks out, you can feel all kinds of things through this wheel. It's insane. So I had no idea what the feeling was going to be like, because I came from the Logitech world and I had like a, not the high-end one. It was the one that came with the PlayStation 2, the Gran Turismo 4 wheel. I don't remember the exact model. I think they just called it the GT wheel or the Gran Turismo wheel. That's the one that I had, and this thing is just absolutely insane. It feels so awesome. So I'm very, very glad that I actually didn't have the option, but that I ponied up and got that. The wheel that's on it, this is actually a quick disconnect, just like a real race car. So if you flip this over, there is a screw that I have in here so it doesn't come off. But if that's not there, you can essentially grab the wheel and push on this and pop it off. And all of these controls actually go through pins that are in the center of this. So there's no Bluetooth, there's no cables, there's no nothing that connects this to that. It's all separate and goes through that middle part. So that's kind of nice being in the Fanatec ecosystem, as they call it. Everything's designed to work with each other. So this is the R300 podium wheel. And this came in a kit with this advanced pedal module. So you've got shifting paddles here, and then there's another paddle back here that you can assign to whatever, and then there's actually analog, see if I can get in there, analog paddles here. So if you want to do like the whole Formula One car clutch, back here, you can do that. So it gives you, all the versatility you need, and those can be assigned to whatever you want. So, obviously up gear, down gear on those ones, but with the other ones you can do whatever you want. It also comes with in the kit this Club Sport button pack. So there's 3 buttons here, 3 buttons here, and you can assign those to whatever you want. So windshield wipers, starter buttons, horns, all that kind of stuff. Depending on the sim you have, you can do pretty much whatever you want with that. Shifter, I like driving manual cars, so I actually opted for these pedals. These are the Club Sport pedals version 3. So if you look them up on the website, they have slightly different pedals on them. They come with an option, so you can either get these metal pedals or they have these smaller rectangular puck style pedals. I like these. These came on these pedals when I got them. I actually bought these pedals used off eBay from someone in Hawaii. And they also have the Club Sport Pedals V2 Brake Performance Kit. You've got your clutch pedal, and that kind of moves like a real clutch pedal. So it's harder to push at the beginning, and then it gets easy as you go. The accelerator pedal just kind of feels like an accelerator pedal. It's fairly linear, but the brake pedal is very stiff to push. And if you notice, there's a motor on there. So if you push it into where the ABS is, it actually rotates the pedal or vibrates the pedal a little bit. The accelerator pedal has a similar motor that you can assign to do things as well. So this isn't actually like a potentiometer. It's actually, I don't remember what they call it, like a load cell brake pedal. It doesn't measure how far you push it like this. It measures how hard you push it. So it actually feels like a real brake pedal in a real car, which makes a huge difference. Next up, the shifter. Like I said, I like to drive manual cars. So this is a up to 7-speed manual gearbox. So to get to 7th, you push down, go up, and then your reverse is over here. You push down and go over for reverse. And this is very notchy, so it feels real good. On the bottom, there's a little left lever you can switch over to turn this into like a sequential shifter. So if you're, in the middle, if you push down and let go, it'll pop back into gear, so you can pound through gears like in a rally car or something. So that's kind of versatile and built very well. Right next to that, I actually wasn't going to get this, and then I ended up trying to play Dirt Rally 2.0, which is an insane game. You basically can't play that game without an e-brake. So this is an analog emergency brake, and I mounted it up like that, kind of like a rally car is mounted, just because that's the type of game that I was playing. You can also mount it down here if you would like. There are mount provisions for it to be down where it would be in a car. But I like having it close to the wheel like this. Originally I had it mounted on the other side of the shifter, but when I would go into 5th and 6th with my right hand on this, it's kind of over here, I would hit it with my hand. So I moved it over. Only downside to that is it kind of makes it a little tight next to your legs. My legs rest against this, and that's not the greatest thing in the world, but there's only so much room. So that kind of sums up the driving parts. It's nice, like I said, because all these Fanatec parts all work together. So there's no cabling for the wheel, there's no Bluetooth. For the shifter and the handbrake and the pedals, they all plug into the back of this wheelbase. And then there's just one USB connection that goes to the PC, which I have stuffed back there. So you load the drivers, you fire up Fanatec software, it sees all of this stuff. You can calibrate all of it, and then you're good to go. Most of the games support all of this stuff natively, which is awesome. So it makes it really easy. I've got this. This came with the cockpit too. It's listed as optional on the website, but it actually comes with the Assetto Corsa package. This doesn't really work that well. Whenever I play, I always have to take this mouse and set it right there. And even then, during a game, these things eventually rattle themselves off of this pad. So that between that wheelbase and that butt kicker gamer thing, which I haven't talked about yet, this whole rig shakes pretty good. So the wheel kind of lets you feel all the wheel things, and then when you go over bumps in the road and everything, that's sent to that thing, and that thing shakes the whole thing. So I'm gonna have to figure out something to do here. This is just powder coated steel, so what I'm probably gonna do is try to find a mat that's like a non-slip mat and put it on there so I can set those things there and they just kind of stay where they're at. Definitely that mouse on this thing lasts about 2 seconds and it rattles and falls on the floor. So this bar goes across, and there are two risers that come up in the front and the back. So if you look here, this is actually doubled up. So the outer part is part of the actual chassis, and then the inner part is part of the plate that mounts to this. So mounted to that is this butt kicker gamer thing. So these are kind of like if you've ever been to the movie theater and you get like the D-box seats, they like vibrate. This thing's a little bit smarter than that. So the way this works is you plug it into an amplifier box, which I have mounted up here. So that goes into the back of this, and you can adjust like the, the gain and everything. Plugged into this essentially is a sound card. So I have a dedicated, I use the onboard dedicated sound card in the PC to go out to this box. And then what happens is, typically when you hook one of these things up, you split your audio channel and the audio goes into it. So this thing will vibrate based on like bass, which is kind of like not good, because if you turn your volume up and down, it will vibrate more or less. And this box is really sensitive when it comes to its inputs. So it's really easy to overdrive this box and push it into clipping. So if you've ever set up an amp before, you know that clipping is bad, and you can easily destroy this amp if you start clipping the hell out of it. So what I did was ran a dedicated audio output from the PC into the box, separate from the audio that comes through the speakers when you play games, watch movies. I don't watch movies on this, but the default Windows sound card does not go into that box. It's a dedicated sound interface. And what's cool is that this software here, SimHub, you can plug all of your games in there. So it comes preloaded with a bunch. So a bunch of these I don't have. Like I don't have American Truck Simulator, but you put all of your games in there, and then you can go to Bass Shakers, and you can program in everything that you want to feel. So acceleration, deceleration, engine vibration, gear shift, missed gear, road impacts, all this stuff. And you can adjust all the levels, and you can go in and adjust like all of the frequencies. So if you want it to like rumble like lower, you can turn that down to like 30 hertz, or if it's like something like a let's see, like simulated road texture, you might crank that up to like 50 hertz, just to kind of get different feels for different things. So what happens is the games are actually configured to know what this stuff is. So Assetto Corsa, which is the game that I play the most, for example, has telemetry built into the game, and it can send information to an audio device that is specifically destined for a shaker like this. So you don't get all of the, like if you're listening to music, that's not coming through this. It's only telemetry sent from the game, sent what's happening from the car to the device. So you feel things like shifts or miss shifts, or if your trans grinds, or anything like that, you feel all of that. So that's pretty awesome. So that thing was kind of a pain to set up. It took us a couple of hours playing with it to get everything smooth and working with a bunch of games, to get this box set up to where it wasn't clipping, because we didn't want to burn that box up. And they don't really go over in the instructions for those how to set them up well, but once you do get them set up, they feel really good, and it makes it a lot more immersive. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about a little bit of software. So like I said, I use Assetto the most, and I have the this other custom interface, this content manager interface, which is not from them. It's actually from a third-party person. Very powerful. Allows you to install all kinds of plugins and mods and all kinds of stuff. So that's cool. I also have obviously the triple monitors. So I kind of wondered how this worked, and I had to watch a bunch of videos to learn how to set this up. Essentially what you have to do is go into the NVIDIA control panel and set up multiple displays, and then you can take those and figure out what port they're plugged into. So I have one on HDMI and 2 DisplayPort ports. And then you put them in order, basically, and tell them from left to right which monitor is physically located where. And then the NVIDIA software basically treats it like one big display. So if you see like Windows display settings, it's basically one giant monitor that is 11,520 pixels by 2160 pixels. So Windows just sees this as a giant single display. Games do as well. So Games like Assetto have a thing where you can go in and you can tell it you have triple monitors, and you can tell it what angle you have them at, and it will automatically adjust your field of view so it looks natural and real. But there's nothing stopping you from going into like Doom and having it span across all displays, which is actually pretty awesome. But that is kind of a neat thing, definitely in software only, which kind of sucks because between the drivers for the Fanatec stuff and all of the NVIDIA surround stuff, you're kind of stuck to using Windows with all of this, which is probably my least favorite thing. Final thing I'll go over here, in this basement you can see there's currently lights of all different colors. What this is a Philips Hue setup. So what you end up with is this little Hue bridge you can see back there. So that's connected via wired Ethernet to the network, and then I believe these bulbs use like Zigbee to talk to that. And you can go in on PC and load up this Philips Hue app, and then go into games, and then go into start light sync, and you'll see all of these change color based on what is on the center screen here. So I'm sure the video is not going to be that great in terms of color, but they're all like a grayish, greenish type of hue right now, and that is reflected by what's on this screen. So the cool part about this is if you're playing the game and you're driving, say you turn a corner and it's really dark, and you turn the corner and come out of trees and there's a sunset that's really orange, all of the lights in the room will illuminate and turn orange. And then say you go under a bridge and it's dark under the bridge, they'll all turn to a neutral color and turn down very quickly, and it just makes the whole experience way more immersive, just because of, you know, you can physically see the light changing on your arms and on your steering wheel and, you know, on your shifter and everything, and it's just a really, really cool added kind of touch to make it that much more real. It's kind of been fun building this thing. It's been a labor, an investment over the past year or so, but it is kind of a cool little setup. Thanks for watching the video. Check back, maybe I'll post some other stuff up.